I love the song, man. It's just so unnaturally good. What the hell? How's it going, guys? Good to see you. Canvas coming in here way early. Welcome, guys. Gonna do a couple of things today. We are going to do a quick little painting of this doggo over here. He's right there. Look at him, he's so cute. And then we're gonna be doing a repaint of an old Pokemon piece that I did last December. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So we'll do this for about an hour first, and then we'll continue to the next one, okay? So we're gonna get started in just a second here. I am just setting up, getting my timer and everything in order, and then we can let loose and enjoy some good old-fashioned quick little paintings. Let's see how much our fundamentals have degraded over the course of our intense work for a concept. But honestly, I don't think they have. I've done a few paintings since I've gotten free of my term, and I think my skills are still okay. Some of my comfort level, of course, is going to diminish a little bit. It's very natural when you don't do something for a while. But I think my understanding and all of my other faculties are mostly retained, so we should be okay. I got a bunch of coffee in me. Speaking of which, coffee in Singapore is so much better than the Netherlands, no offense. For the same price tag, goddamn, does it hit the spot a little bit better. We should be alright. Durgesh, how's it going, man? What is the time where you are? 4 hours earlier than me, I'm assuming? So something like, I don't know, 4 or 5? My brain is conveniently fried. Is this ref on your Discord? I can put it up there if you like. I don't mind. I'll put the ref on the Discord if you want to paint with me. Gonna be up there in a second. 4:42. All right. That's you know what time that is, Durgesh? That's the time to paint. That's painting time right there. 4:42. All right, man. Up there for you. The time limit is gonna be let's just say 1 hour. Take it easy on me, alright? I know you've never stopped grinding. I take a little bit of a break of a concept, but I think we'll be alright. Okay, let me adjust my seating arrangement here because I just sat down. It's been lovely being able to sleep, man. I feel like I feel different, definitely, because the last, I think, 3 weeks before my term ended, those are some extremely sleep deprivation weeks. But I think I'm doing alright now. Quick little checks with my brushes. Everything should be in order. And then let's paint this thing, man. It shouldn't be that hard. But I'm doodling, learning to get my lines straight. Hey, that's important. Don't let me keep you from doing that. Do a quick little brush check. Opacity, do you work? You work, you're alright. Alright, guys. So I'm gonna set my timer. 3, 2, 1, and we go. Easy as that. First thing I'm going to do, set that aspect ratio of my canvas to something that is more usable than what it currently is. Krita, pretty easy to do that, using the trim to selection tool. Okay, next thing we do is we fix that background. I have a feeling that I want to kind of show some of those worms off, you know, off of the chest and the under neck region, and also in the middle of those ears. So what I always say when you're choosing a background color, there's no set rule, right? Because this is my canvas. I get to say what's going to happen. So why don't I just say that I'm going to choose that cool? Because it's going to serve a purpose, right? So your boy Nathan Fox oftentimes talks about this, right? And I talk about it myself. If you want to show something off, you got to create contrast. So I'm going to do that from the get-go here. All right? From the get-go, we're going to create a bit of contrast. So let me go ahead and just dump some blue onto the canvas so we can get started working. Also, these are going to be dark areas. They're going to be dark areas and they're going to be warm areas. So dark and warm. So what contrasts dark and warm? Well, for you whizzes out there, I'm sure you already said cool and light. So remember, cool and light. That's what our background's going to be. So we'll slam that cool and light in here. Easy peasy. All right, good enough. Let's not make it too attractive now. I don't want to make it too attractive. I'll toss a gradient in there, why not? Right? You can put a gradient in there. I feel like there's an allowance to do so. Melon, how's it going? That's not too shabby, right? And maybe I can just spritz some warm down there. That's also not a problem. Maybe a little bit of darkish brown. Bit of saturation in there to kind of get the ball rolling with that. A little bit of softness there. Maybe I'll throw in some hard strokes. This is the time in the canvas you can just have a little bit of fun, right? Because nobody can tell you what to do. This is the free portion of your drawing. Just moving things where I want. Slept all day. But it was more like I fell asleep doing this stuff. I think after this I'm going to catch a few more hours. Hey, do so, man. Do so. Alright. So now let's just imagine, you know, in some world, this is our background, right? Maybe I want to spritz in a little bit more lightness and saturation up on the top just to prevent things from looking too drab and gray. But that. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, can do, can do. And now we'll start laying in our foundations for our measurement, right? A couple of little strokes. Shall we do everything without lines today? Anybody up for that? Let's try it. That'll be fun. Okay, so let's pick our primary. Now we get to jump directly into color. What's going to be our primary? Remember, this stuff is going to be mostly warm. It'll be cooled on top of warms. So I'm a big fan, a big philosopher when it comes to painting majority. So I identify the majority in this piece, even if it's not exactly that on the canvas. I'm going to make the executive decision over here to say it's going to be kind of deep, kind of reddish brown, something like that. I feel like. All right, cool. We can play with that. I feel like you can maybe see where I'm coming from here. And then I'm just gonna grab some space. All right, we're just gonna grab some space in the canvas. We're gonna brute force the canvas with some selection tool. Easy peasy, man. Like that. Grab some space. All right. Does it look anything like it's supposed to? No, of course not. That's okay. All right. This is the basis, the foundation. This is the stone upon which my empire will be built. All right. Let's throw in some deeper, warmer colors. Really see where this can get us. Some slowing down in my computer, but we shouldn't be able to worry too much about that. I'm gonna throw in a couple of colors on top of this just to kind of push it in the direction that I want it to go. But we should be all right. Should be kind of okay. So now there's going to be a little bit of pushing and pulling. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually swatching on my canvas. I'm just kind of doing a quick little color paint, basically a color rough, rather, I should say, a quick color rough to kind of find where I want my things to go. So generally speaking, you would do this off the canvas. I just like doing it on my canvas because it's really fun that way. Because most of the time I can just stick with my decision sometimes. Alright, so I'm just finding what that orange needs to be, finding what that light orange needs to be. It's a quick little thing that I like to do. Does it save me that much time? Not really, right? Not that much time is being saved by doing this. But I have a lot of fun doing it, so I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, I found just about almost like 50% of what I need right now. So I'm just mixing and matching on my canvas to just find what I really need. Find me. Gonna be a dark saturated blue like that. Ooh, nice. That's what I want. So what's the logic, by the way? The logic over here is that I am choosing deeply saturated reddish tones for my shadows and for my darker areas. And as I go lighter and lighter, you're gonna see me have slightly more desaturated, maybe cooler tones in the areas of the head, for example, right over there. So that's gonna be the logic of this piece that we're gonna follow. Whether desat cool or desat warm is a wonderful question to ask, and the answer is that there's no real right answer because we get to kind of define what this piece needs to be. So I can just choose this, for example, which is a desat kind of reddish yellow, and that'll probably work because, again, even though it's not technically more yellow, it is desaturated, which is going to cool stuff down. Because remember, desaturation creates a complementary effect. That's how color theory works. So a desaturated red will be cooler than a saturated red. So I can still stay within the same zone of my canvas, so the same zone of color. So you can see my color wheel, right? Yeah, you can. Let me just move that down for you. But you can see that even though I'm still staying over here, so even though this stuff is technically, well, right now it's warmer, of course, but it's so close, but it still reads so blue, and that's because of the desaturation, right? Don't ever forget that. Desat has an incredible impact on temperature, so don't ever mistake that fact. It's really important because these are the decisions that you have to make. I mean, these are the tools that you're going to have in your arsenal, okay? Whenever you want to make a painting and you want to kind of stick to a very particular palette, this is how you make it work, you know? You make it work because you understand how all these fundamentals kind of play. So remember, we're not going to be using any lines here, which is really fun way to paint. But again, we are going to be just moving around shapes. Mac, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you. Also, I saw somebody on the Discord already did the homework that I assigned to you guys yesterday. Of course, no pressure to do the homework, but that's kind of cool to see, because generally speaking, I didn't expect anybody to do it besides Azar. But the homework was to render out six cubes, 6 cylinders, and 6 spheres for me, which I will evaluate later on. And somebody already did one, so proud of you. I will look at them right after this and show everybody what they're missing. Because in the very least, one of the nice things about that is even if people don't do the homework, right? Somebody else doing it and getting an evaluation might help other people kind of figure out what they don't know. You seem to like doggos a lot. I love doggos. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like doggos? Do you not like doggos, Melon? Is that what you're telling me? Get some slightly more bluer tones here. It's gonna be one of the fun things is that the one color that I can't accurately see, I'm not colorblind, but the one color that I can't accurately kind of put a finger on is desaturated red. I can never see that color accurately. So what's funny is that the one time that I can't exactly think about what something is in terms of its color, I just say it's desaturated red, and I'm usually right. So it's almost like I'm learning through my lack of ability. Like since I can't see it, it must be the thing that I can't see. It's a very fun way of looking at things. Okay, so we can actually introduce some kind of interesting tones here. So from this desaturated red, I can actually push some blue on the canvas if I wanted to. See, that harmonizes, doesn't it? Because again, it's desat, on sat, and in the middle of the desaturated zone, I can push it to the other side of the color spectrum. This is going to be 1 hour Mac, 1 hour study. You see, I can just push it to the other side. That's fucking cool, right? The fact that we can do that, it's really, really cool. Now I can push it back to the saturated, maybe reddish blue here. That's a correct answer, by the way, Melon. Correct answer. You can live this time. And now from that desaturation, I can bring in all of these cool blues, and look at how neat that looks on the canvas. Like we haven't even drawn a dog yet, and it already looks kind of cool. That's the fun part of this whole situation. Also, I'm not doing something particular. I'm just painting with standard creator brushes. But if I wanted to, right, and this is what I do for my commission work, is I would use something like this. Look at this brush over here. Look at how cool it is. It's an aberration brush. It's a chromatic aberration brush, so it gives me variations when I make a color. Like I make an orange here. You see all of those little things right there? Kind of cool, right? So it gives me like natural amounts of like color jitter when I do my stroke, and that's one of the fun little features of the program that I use, which is Krita. And most programs will have a feature like this. Just go ahead and explore it in your own time. But thankfully, I already have figured most of that out on mine. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a couple of strokes right there with this. Is it possible to mix any color in as long as it's desaturated? For the most part, yes. Whether or not desaturating it is always a solution, maybe is a question that is much more contextually dependent. But for the most part, you'll find that grays or grayish colors always go with themselves. Let me pause the timer here and I'll show you. Timer's paused at 9:35. So let me show you really quickly on a new layer. Demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm just going to curry up my background. So here is a saturated red. So you can see my color wheel, right? So I'm not cheating you. I'm not lying to you. So this is sat red near sat blue. Okay, so pretty clear, right? Now let's do the exact same experiment, but we'll push it here. This is desat blue, and this is desat red. See that? Ooh, freaky, right? That's because these colors are way closer together, and the principle is very simple, right? The principle is quite simple. How do I get from red to blue? How do I get to red to blue? I can do this, right? I can go, oh, orange, I can go yellow, I can go green, I can go this green and bluish, and then this bluish, and then finally I end up with this blue, right? That's one way, but that's the long way. But colors, much like lazy people, take the shortest route possible, right? So what is the shortest route? It's actually this. To the Grey Bridge, to the secret Valhallan passage of the Grey Bridge. Grey up, then saturate, 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 and then this color. So again, two directions, red to blue, red to blue. So this is going to happen most likely for complementary colors, because complementary colors are situated really far away from each other, so they tend to go through gray almost always. But colors that are very close, like red to yellow, those ones, they travel directly through the color spectrum. So red will become saturated through orange, right? Or red will become saturated through pink, but it'll become desaturated through blue. Does that make sense? Kind of cool, right? So this is how you kind of deal with any interaction of light. Now this is a little bit of a simplified understanding of stuff, but this is what is going to get you maybe 90% of the way there. There's still some subtlety involved, but for the most part, this is like a lot of color theory dumbed down to very simple, a simple understanding. Peace, man, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you. All right, back to the drawing that we're doing. A little bit of an explanation on color there. 9:32 on the clock. Continue. Okay, moving on. Gotta get some deep, dark, cool values in here. How fun is that though? How cool is that? I enjoy color a lot. That's a nice color. Beautiful red there. So again, I am under like no obligation to kind of get these colors right from the reference, right? I'm gonna use them as kind of like suggestions, but under no circumstance am I ever gonna worry about stuff. Also, I want to make a point over here about selecting color. I want this to be green on the canvas, but the thing about all colors is that they're relative, and here's how I solve things in my mind. I pick the color over here, okay, and I just move it greener. So if I move it greener, it becomes greener. But I don't just pick green. I take the local color and I shift it towards the green.
Oh,
okay,
fuck.
towards the green.
I can't believe you've done this.
And that kind of makes things greener, which is fantastic because again, this is one of the things that can really retain the amount of harmony on your piece, right? Makes your piece more harmonious, and also it maintains that overall kind of color variety that you're looking for. Because that's a concept in all painting, right? And the concept's quite simple. It's called unity with diversity, right? It's a very fundamental design principle. So you want to keep things unified, but at the same time, right? At the same time, you want to keep things diverse. That's what makes an interesting piece. So the grays of each color are close to each other, so desaturated colors sort of go well together. Yes, exactly. So desat colors are closer to each other, which means they're always going to have harmonious nature with each other. Okay. Again, I'm not using any lines for this drawing, so I'm going to be a little bit careful when I place some stuff here. Also, I'm going to use some fun little brushes, because I miss using brushes. I've been using round brush for the last 4 months. I want to use my fun brushes, so I'm going to use fun brushes. Let's pick a cooler value here. You guys can see my palette. So we'll draw some lovely semicircles in here.
I can't believe you've done this.
Hey, thanks for the follows, guys. Appreciate that. So let's draw some rough little, ooh, he's so angry. Some rough little semicircles there. The thing about measurement, right? Especially when I don't have any lines, is that I'm not very worried about this, right? I'm not super worried about, oh, is this gonna be right or wrong, you know? Because ultimately, you as the artist have to make some sort of executive decisions when it comes to, oh, well, things are not going the way they need to be, chief. Let's go ahead and change some stuff. So I'm always ready at any point to change things on my canvas. Now, is that a good way to work? Maybe or maybe not. It depends on who you are. Okay? Some people really like to just come down really strongly on their proportions and say, okay, this is what it is. I don't want to mess with this at all. Okay? This is going to be the final time I touch my proportions, and that's it. And I think that's totally fine. If you like to work that way, go ahead and work that way. Personally, I like to kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just lazy, but I like to just play around with stuff until the end of my painting. So having the kind of mindset is good. And don't be afraid to put in grades and stuff, if it kind of works with your painting. Are you a teacher in real life? You seem to deliver advice very clearly. Nah, I'm just dumb. I just don't grasp things very well, so this is like, you're getting my dumbed down version, basically, which is why it's like easy to understand. Fantastic color tutorial. Hey, don't worry about it. Information should always be free. Okay, so here's the big thing, right? So we're having a lot of fun with swatching things around, but this is where this piece can be lost. And let me tell you, somebody that's been doing this kind of painting for a while now, there is a moment in these paintings where things can be really, really lost. And that's when you add way too many things. So we have so many different things to play around with, like so many tools, but there is such a thing as too much choice. So we can complicate things immediately. So I'm gonna put in a couple more strokes because I'm missing a couple of colors that I think I want. But then we have this really cool stage in this kind of painting, which is a sculpting stage. So we're just gonna start moving things around, just tossing things around like a chimp. And that's gonna be really fun because we can find out a whole bunch of things that we're missing. The last color that I need is gonna be the eye color. It's gonna be this beautiful, deep, dark, saturated orange. So remember, most of my colors, let me sample around the piece for you. You see how all those colors are kind of sitting in the middle of that triangle? But when I hit it with this deep orange thing, I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness, that's so deep, it's so orange. But I'm not doing that right now because ultimately I wanna leave some room for later on. Okay, so now comes the sculpting phase. So this is where I kind of figure out my proportions accurately. So what's gonna happen here is I'm basically gonna switch off everything on my canvas, right? So now everything's nice and clear. And we're just gonna move things around. Okay, you and me, we're just gonna move things around together. And whenever I do need some stuff, I'm going to tab in and maybe say, oh, you know what, I'm missing that light value for my nose, so let me just go ahead and grab this value. Here's another tip to make things a bit more specific to your canvas. See, I know that this value is okay for my painting, but I want a brighter value. So as opposed to just arbitrary in the dark looking for a brighter value, here's a very common example of something that's going to help you a lot in your paintings. All you got to do is just sample that location and then move that location brighter. Don't just try to imagine a brighter location or a brighter color. Sample it and then shift it. That way you always maintain the fidelity of your piece. Okay, so kind of sample what's already there. Like you shouldn't like have to have the burden of being some sort of insane mastermind when it comes to your painting. All right, make decisions that make a lot of sense. Right, make decisions that are going to benefit you. All right, so now we're going to be in that sculpting phase. All right, so let's go ahead and sculpt some stuff. So this is going to be really fun because all we got to do is look at shapes and look at interesting shapes. So I'm going to try and call out the stuff that I'm doing here. This guy already has a gun. The photo cute blep. It is a very cute blep. Okay. So I might make some changes here at some point. Maybe I prefer this to be a bit cooler. I'm going to leave it in this deep, like warm, crimson-y, purpley situation. But all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to shift stuff. Right now, getting that side of the eye right there. This is just sculpting. And it might seem like I'm not doing anything at first, but slowly but surely you will see what I see. Okay? So this is the brow region, right? It's the top, because all of these beautiful animals generally have a little bit of that heavy kind of brow on top to prevent the sun from getting into their little eyes. When you draw lions, for example, very prominent, man. When you draw lions and tigers, they got this super prominent mass above their eye. Really prominent stuff. Electro, how's it going, dude? I have so much to do today, but I'm still in bed. Hey! I have a lot to do today as well, and I just got out of bed, so I hope that you will join me. Alright, getting this done. Ooh, look, we can just sample the background. I want to point out something. I'm just doing all of this on one layer, because again, I like to mix and match things. It's a fun way of working, but again, it's just a preference of mine. There's no necessity. Also, something that I'm doing here that's really important, I should talk about this, is the idea that I am just making comparisons in my head when I'm painting. Such an important thing to help you to paint a little bit quicker, okay? But this is something that was taught to me by an incredible artist. His name is Jonathan Hardesty. Hardesty streams on Twitch, but more importantly, he has an incredible tutorial. Not tutorial really, but it's a class on schoolism. It's called Essentials of Realism. I really recommend that class if you have the money to pay for it. In that he talks about comparing things on the canvas, such an important aspect of painting. You gotta consider that when you're working. Somebody might say the eyes are a little bit too close, and you know what, I might agree with you. The eyes are a little bit too close, aren't they? We can just bridge through that. Ooh, let's grab this brush here. Cool. I like those big, bold strokes. Anybody with me here? Those big, large strokes. I really don't like this kind of painting half the time. You know, there are situations where I do like that kind of stuff. It's just personal taste, of course, not harping on anybody that likes to paint cel shaded. Do you think when you're a beginner, it's better to train only one brush or to try and paint with everything? For sure, when you're a beginner, simplify everything that you can. If you can simplify stuff more, then do so, and then master something at a certain level of difficulty, and then complicate later on. Right? One of the biggest differences you will find between beginners and pros, or beginners and intermediates even, is the simple fact that beginners cannot multitask nearly as well because they don't have the requisite amount of comfort when it comes to achieving all of these crazy tasks together. So let's go to maybe not what I have to say. Let's talk about a very renowned art educator. Let's talk about Anthony Jones, right? Anthony Jones suggests that when you first start painting digitally, always make sure to turn off just about everything you do not understand and stick with very basic tool sets. So maybe stick with just your round brush, no layers, you know, no filters, no fancy smudge brush, very simple understanding. So why is that? It's because it gives you this little controllable space that you can start to kind of really get your bearings. And once you're happy and once you're comfortable, then overcomplicate, then make more and more changes, then you do all of these fancy things that you want to. But before that, try not to do that. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what's most optimal or not, because of course that would be the optimal way, right? And the most way that we would all want to do is just if you could just learn everything at the same time. But as it turns out, that's just not possible, right? There's so many more factors to play into that equation. How much time do you have to spend? You know, how aware are you? How much background do you have? There's so many other factors that play into it. So I think the recipe for the best start is just going to be keep things in control. So keep things in some degree of control. Don't overcomplicate things, right? Do only as much as you feel comfortable doing, right? You should always be pushing your boundaries, but don't just jump into the deep end with absolutely no idea what you're doing. So don't add 15 billion different tools for you to use. Learn a bunch of things. Maybe if you want to learn one or two things together, okay, sure, but don't overwhelm yourself, right? And only you can say what is overwhelming and what is not, because you might be way better than I am when you first start, right? So maybe you can do multiple things at the same time. Me personally, when I first started painting, I used a single layer, a single brush, I did everything in grayscale, and I did very simple references, and I thought that was a great start. I had no complaints from that start. I saw progress at the pace that I wanted it to come, so I didn't mind that very much at all. Thought that was fine. And when the time came, I added more stuff. I learned more stuff. Like, to put into perspective, with the way that I've learned how to use these tool sets, I didn't start to use filtering, I didn't start to use contrast layers or masking layers until about a year and a half into painting. Because most of my education when it comes to art has come from oil painters, so I just concerned myself with the overall fundamentals of something. I didn't care too much about all these aspects, like these digital aspects that, while are really important to know and you should know them eventually, I just cared about painting in general. I just cared about raw painting. Why do things work the way they do? What works and what doesn't work? What has worked in the past? Why does it work? And that's, I think, what has given me, like, I'm not a very good artist, right? But I know a few things about how to draw pictures, how to break something down. And that's mainly because I've always tried to pursue the fundamental aspect of stuff. I don't really care too much about these kind of complicated stuff like brushes and things. Of course, I brought that in later, right? I did my first texture brush painting about 5 or 6 months after I started painting in general. And I've been using a lot of brushes ever since, because I really enjoy the way it looks. But is it a necessity? No. So to answer your question quite simply, keep things simple. If you want to definitely, without any doubt in your mind, see progress, keep it simple. It's going to help you a lot. Again, see, I can put that blue in there. I can put that blue in there because see what it's sitting on? It's sitting on desaturated red. So this blue can live there on the canvas. That's why it doesn't look awkward, right? It looks a little bit awkward, maybe a little bit of blending, maybe a little bit of transitions are important there. But you see, it'll still live there. It can still live there. You know where I learned that from? I learned that from studying Frank Frazetta. Some of his paintings have such incredible complementary colors. It's really worth just sitting down and then painting that stuff, and then seeing how on earth did this man have the gall, you know, to put that kind of work, or put that kind of a color on his canvas. It's so insane, just the sheer difference that you can find on his canvas. So you saw me go into my palette over there because I was missing this beautiful light value. So again, I can't tell you with any amount of certainty that this particular value is going to stay, right? Maybe it'll stay, maybe it won't, but I'm not going to let that stop me from continuing my painting, okay? Because this painting's going to get done. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add additional context to my canvas over here. Additional context is going to be added, and then I'll make a decision to say, oh, wait a second. Let's go ahead and make an adjustment based on that.
Here's a small thank you for these wonderful insights. I'll definitely be staying around to learn and improve my art, Tilda.
You're welcome. Most welcome. Yes, this is the kind of thing that I do on Twitch, but I'm extremely grateful for the support. Spectre, how's it going, man? Yeah, drawing some more doggies. So what am I doing right now? Just adding additional context to my painting, because that's a really fun thing to do, and a fun thing to try out. Just because of the fact that sometimes you don't have enough information to make a decision, right? So I'm just going to go a little bit further on. Where did I hear this? I think I heard this in a design talk on YouTube from some guy that worked for Ubisoft. He said he likes to think about it as retreating and then reassessing and then re-attacking, basically. So if he's ever at a stage in his painting where he thinks, oh, wait a second, I don't really know what's going on, you know, I'm a little bit lost over here, he just works on another place to a certain point, and then he comes back to that area and he says, okay, now it's time for round 2, now I'm going to kick some ass, right? It's an interesting way of thinking about it, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's an interesting way to think about it. What you guys got to understand about all this painting advice that you get from the internet, and sometimes it can seem almost contradictory, right? Some people will say, oh, never use imagination, always use reference. And some people will say, oh, what are you doing using imagination? What do you think you're crazy with visual library? Why don't you just use reference and stop being pretentious? the thing about all this information is it's a lot of it is just very contextual. It's all really contextual, right? You gotta always have a little bit of that, the mindset of thinking about yourself when you kind of get all this information in your head, right? You gotta consider the fact that you yourself are, as similar as we can be. We all come from kind of different mindsets, different walks of life, and we have a different amount of like ability to kind of grasp certain things. So what I say when you want to be a better artist, what I say is be utilitarian, okay? You have to have a mindset wherein you test out everything that you think might work, and I guarantee you most of it won't, but the stuff that you do, remember that stuff, all right? But test everything out. Sort of a situation where you kind of listen to everybody, right? Listen to everybody, but don't apply everything, right? Still have that kind of idea in your head saying, oh, you know what? I kind of get that, but this guy is probably coming from here and here, right? It's coming from this direction, and I'm not really in that direction, right? I'll give you a very good example for myself. Grayscale to color, right? How many guys over here have tried grayscale to color? Possibly most of you guys, right? So I don't like grayscale to color. It doesn't suit the way that I do stuff, right? What's a Discord? Exclamation mark Discord should get you the link. But I don't like grayscale to color up very much, right? I don't really prefer that. Why is that? I can go into it later on if you like.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
But does that mean that people that give advice for grayscale to color are wrong? Not really. It's just being applied to a different subset of people, right? And in this case, it's the majority of people prefer grayscale to color. They think it's a much easier way of painting. And I understand the method, I understand the theory behind it, and I don't disagree that it is a good way. But ultimately, you got to think about what's best for you as well, right? Because it's easy to kind of get into this mindset of saying, oh, you know what, it's all good, it's all right. But it's very specific. This is a very specific kind of craft. Be a bit careful. There you go, that should be the link for you. Advice for different contexts and situations. For sure, I'll give you some other examples. So I think we've all heard the concept of warm light, cool color. I'm sorry, warm light, cool shadow, cool light, warm shadow. That's a very common tip that people give for beginners, right? I think it's not a bad tip, right? Pretty okay tip. But the truth behind color variance and the truth behind temperature variance on a canvas is so much greater than that. I actually go into a little bit more detail. I had a big teaching stream yesterday. I think I talk about it somewhere towards the end of it, about that whole topic. But you're welcome to look at that stream in the VODs. It's also on my I have a YouTube channel specifically for just VODs. It's not fancy. It's not like a real YouTube channel. It's just because Twitch deletes the VODs. It's just for the convenience of the viewers, because VODs get deleted pretty often. But you can go ahead and check that entire stream out if you want to see me. I was first of all teaching one of my buddies about how to paint forms, and then I went over a lot of critiques. So that was a fun little stream. Frame drop, sorry about that. I have some very old hardware here. Just adding some fluff here. You see, I'm very seldom picking new colors. I'm just gonna remember that initial swatching that we did. We're just playing around with that, man. We're still playing around with that because it's fun. And the lovely thing about this whole situation is that since my colors already are solved in terms of harmony, I can just play around with them however I want to. And I can just move them around. I can switch them around, and they all work. Because again, I put the time into making sure that I have a good variance of colors on my canvas, so it all works together, which is really fun. I can still remember the 1, 2, 3 read. There you go. There you go, Melon. Absorbing that information. Good for you. How's it going, Otaku, by the way? Feeling like the old times? Just like the old times, Legion. Hell yeah, let's go. So I hope you guys enjoy this kind of work while it lasts, because when I get back to school, it's going to be just all of it's going to go back to painting villages in one dimension and painting vehicles and really weird boxes and perspective assignments. So it's going to go back to that. But that's the kind of thing that you gotta do to learn, so I'm not gonna complain. It just makes for maybe a less enthusiastic viewing experience. Okay, continuing on with this piece. And we're getting lost down the rabbit hole of VTubers and livers. What's a VTuber and a liver? These are terms that are not very familiar to me. You're gonna have to excuse my ignorance. Remember, paint just in primitives, right? I'm painting in primitives. I think I missed talking about this, even though I wanted to. But think about reuse on the canvas a lot. So a lot of the time what I'm doing is I'm simply just looking for places that are very similar. Let's do one right now,
Oh,
okay?
fuck.
We'll do
I
an
can't believe
exercise
you've done
right
this.
now. So I can say that this area right underneath the jaw is the same value as this area on the side of the head, okay? That's something that I can say, right? Is it exactly the same? No, but remember, we're painters, we're not photographers, right? So it's up to us to try and always look for similarities on our canvas, right? So I grab the similar area right up there and I put it here. I put it here. Maybe that's actually on a gecko, maybe that's not even dark enough. So I'm gonna push the darkness over there. And I don't like how gray it looks. It looks a little bit weird. Let's go ahead and push that darkness, push the saturation. That's better. There you go. There you go. So Cynics was talking to me about saturation on his Discord, and he said that something kind of interesting. He said the saturation in the darks kind of helps you push the dark more than you otherwise would. And I'm still kind of digesting that information, but I'm thinking about it recently. Basically, it kind of means that in the deeper areas of the canvas, a little bit easier to make that thing sit on the canvas a bit better if you think about saturating that area, right? You're a lifesaver, it's the most technical channel I've ever found. Hey, don't worry about it, man. This is the kind of channel, like the way I run this whole channel is ran exactly the way that I wanted my streams to be, because I was a Twitch viewer just like you guys, and I still am. I love Twitch. Just that when I used to always kind of bother people with questions, and I wish people just said what they were doing. And I don't like think it's a bad thing when you're streaming to talk about like anything. And your streams are your own, right? You get to decide what you talk about. But it's just that for me, all I wanted to do was get better, and I felt like there wasn't like a good place for that, right? Because I felt like I was bothering people when I said, "Hey, could you please explain this? I really like the way you did that. Could you please do that?" So this way, I just always talk about what I'm doing, so nobody has to feel worried about interrupting me or feel weird about asking questions. That's just what the stream is about. Like I said, you get to choose. You get to choose what the stream's about, and this is my choice. Thanks, by the way, Nicole. I appreciate that. Virtual YouTuber and liver, a Japanese coin term for people that live stream. Oh, no kidding. I think Kizuna AI, but now there's more of them. Kizuna. Okay, I think you lost me, but I think I understand what you're talking about. Remember, I'm just thinking in shapes right now. Don't think about fur as fur. Don't think about anything as anything, right? Ultimately, then this comes from Artgerm. Artgerm, who had a wonderful Discord community a while ago. This was maybe a year and a half ago. He had these draw-alongs he used to do with us. So one of the times I asked him, Artgerm, how do you do proportioning, man? Because I spend maybe an hour in my pieces to try and get good proportion. You don't seem to do any of that stuff. What's up with that? What's your method? And he said to me, I don't think about anything as a dog or a human being or an airplane. I just think about stuff as an arrangement of light and dark shapes, right? And there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because ultimately there's a certain level on two-dimensional painting which is simply just the level of, okay, it's just lights and darks at the end of the day, right? Nothing else. It's a fun way of looking at things, and I think it's an important thing to consider, right? When you're doing any sort of painting. Ultimately, it's just an array of lights and darks, arranged in a very particular way. So if you're able to just break something down to lights and darks, you can potentially paint anything, right? Without even knowing what something is. Having a reference, of course. Having a reference. So this doesn't apply for off-reference painting. In that case, you gotta know your stuff. And trust me, as much as I toot my own horn when it comes to doing illustration work, I had a very rude awakening the first time I tried to do concept work, and I had to do a lot of training to be able to get some amount of proficiency. But that's a different story. The face needs to be a bit wider, right? Let's move the face and make it a bit wider. Let's go ahead and make a big old selection. And we're just gonna do a little bit of one of these. Is that a bit too much? Did I just crash my computer? Oof. He's so chunky now. Something in between, I feel like. That's a little bit too chunk. Hey, that's good enough. Yeah, Germ. I don't know what happened to the Discord community now. That's better. I think they switched to like private, and to be fair, I actually don't blame them, because there were a lot of questionable individuals on that community. Stanley himself is a class act, by the way. He's a really good dude. He definitely, like, I know some people might, I don't know, like other industries might have like celebrity people that are maybe a bit arrogant or whatever, but that guy is such a sweet guy, man. You could never ever think that he's like a world famous artist when you talk to him. He's a really fun guy to hang around with, just very kind, very considerate, just a lovely dude. And he's in Singapore as well, so he's actually in the same city as I am right now. He runs a school here. Maybe I should go see. But to be fair, I kind of go to a competitor school, so I don't know about the etiquette behind that. So I guess I keep my identity card to myself. I think it's called VG Academy, something like that. That's the school in Singapore. Once I have everything arranged in a relatively kind of way that I want, I kind of add some pushing and pulling tones, which is just adding a little bit of highlight, a little bit of shadow whenever I think it's important. But we are doing okay. We have spent 35 minutes on this piece, and already it's looking pretty doggy. Looking pretty much like a doggy. So, let's continue on. Again, let's go back to the sculpting phase. We should have actually finished that. I'm getting a bit distracted because I'm talking, but hey, don't you worry about it. I hope that you can forgive me. I'm in Singapore too. Hell yeah, Melon. You can come over for the Indian Abroad annual sub meet or community meet, which has never happened, but maybe it'll happen. Look at this little puppy mouth, or her puppy mouth. Yeah, we don't really know any confirmation. You know who else is in Singapore? Raiko. Raiko is such a goddamn great artist, man. I was in the stream yesterday watching him paint Aerith from Final Fantasy. That guy is so insane. Like, his work is pretty good, but let me tell you what I want to comment on that guy in particular. I want to comment on his work ethic. I have never seen in my life somebody that I know personally or actively that can sit down for like 12 hours and just work continuously for 12 hours. It is so ridiculous that somebody can do that. It's just so insane. That guy's a beast. Genuine beast. He's rated me a couple of times. Really do appreciate that, dude. James, a bit of an off-topic tech question. I also have a Canvas Pro 20. Do you update the firmware for the pen tilt? No, I have not. I have not done that. But to be fair, I'm not using my Canvas Pro at the moment. I'm using a regular old Huion graphic tablet. Just because it's what I use for school and I'm kind of comfortable using it right now. And I can draw for really long periods of time. If you're wondering why I choose to have this kind of tablet instead of my more expensive, much better screen tablet, is because for the last how many months is this? For the last 4 months or so, I have had to draw for about 8+, if not 15+ hours sometimes in a day, and most of that's overnight, right? So it's a little bit concerning sometimes how much my arm, my shoulder, and my back hurts holding my arm up for that long. So a lot of the times you'll find me just want to rest my arm on something while I work. So the graphic tablet kind of helps me with that. I wish I had a stand. I think that would be better. What did you say? There you go. Thank you for the clarification. Who is that? Melanie? There you go. Did you miss a lot? I don't know, man. You tell me. I don't think you missed a lot. Here's the thing about my stream, right? Everybody in the stream is like, oh wow, I love your information. And, you know, I really appreciate that. But here's the thing about art in general, is that the information is always the same thing, you know? It's the same goddamn thing over and over again. So if you missed anything, let me tell you, we're gonna be talking about it anyway at some point or the other. So you never missed anything, to be fair. You're perfectly good. Like, painting is not, I mean, painting is like, it's hard, guys. 100% it is hard. But it's also, the science of it has been unlocked for a while. So most of the time, you're gonna hear the same thing again and again, because this stuff kind of doesn't change that much, you know? The stand helps. Look into Ergotron. I need to write that down. Let's draw this beautiful pink tongue. This is okay to color contrast. I don't need to harmonize everything, okay? Okay, let's talk about how do I pick the color. I have a reference. How do I find that color on my reference? Really good question, right? I don't want to sample. I don't want to be that guy that samples, okay? So, very simple. I first try to match that value, okay? So I get where that is. I'm gonna say maybe that much, and I put this value in, okay? And then that's actually pretty close already. Okay, but I'll explain the whole process. So I match that value, and maybe a little bit lighter, right? I think everybody would agree, a bit lighter. So first try to match the value. Okay, let's just say that's right for right now, okay, the base value. And then you try to match the temperature by asking a series of questions. The questions are as follows. Is it more towards this, or is it more towards that? So right now, I'm going to put this value down, and I'm going to say, is it more towards red, or is it more towards pink? I'm going to say, okay, seems like it's more towards pink, let's just say, you know, hypothetically. And I test it out. And I'd be like, oh, wait a second, I went the wrong way, right? It seems cooler than it is in the reference. All right, let's move the other way. More towards this way. That looks closer. That looks closer. But maybe a bit too dark. Let's move it a bit lighter. Oh, okay. Getting there, right? Maybe a touch more saturation, right? Maybe a touch more saturation. There you go. Pretty close, right? Not too bad. Maybe a bit yellower. We can try that out. Too yellow. See? I'm just comparing. I'm comparing and I'm asking questions. It's a really simple technique, right? Most of the time I kind of settle with a value that's close enough, so I don't really care too much about matching reference colors. But if you ever want to do that, that's how you do it, okay? This method comes from a channel called Draw Mix Paint on YouTube. I think this is a great way of always making sure you have the right color on your canvas. If at all that's something that bothers you, it shouldn't bother you too much, but I do agree sometimes the reference is like, oh my goodness, I love those colors, but I don't want to sample, what do I do? That's what you do. Right? It's just a matter of asking questions. A lot of people, I think, might have an issue wherein you feel locked into your decisions, but don't ever feel locked in, right? It's very simple. Very, very simple. Is just test stuff out when you do them. Just test it out. There's nobody telling you can't. So just test stuff out when you're trying new things, or when you're not entirely sure about your decision. Just test something out and see if it fits, right? Just see if that fits your requirement. If it doesn't, then just make a change. Totally fine. All good. Nobody can tell you different. Okay. Gonna get some darkness. Yep, trial and error basically. Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. And it always works. It's always gonna work. Okay, fun little primitive there. I'm gonna maybe throw on a layer of white. Nice chunky shape of white there. Whenever something looks unfinished on a canvas, most of the time it's because you have not put in the full spectrum of lighting. So the basic requirement for just about anything that you paint is going to be have a foam shadow, have a highlight, and have just some sense of shape with those two things, okay? There's some idea of shape between those two things, and you should be pretty good to go, okay? If you don't have that minimum requirement, you need to put that in. Otherwise, things are going to look incomplete, and that's going to just look bad on your canvas. And you don't want that shit. You don't deserve that. Darker value over here, underneath. Real simple, right? Real simple. Darker value. Very nice. Larry, how's it going? Welcome back, man. I think it's a display tablet. I have one too. If it's not tilted, you hold your arm. Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. Yeah. Now the little tongue. It is a very cute little tongue indeed. I do like it myself. Now a little bit more. A little bit more morphing. A little bit more molding. And then we can start to put on some peak values, right? Some peak values right over there. But I like to think about doing things in the most minimal way possible, right? Add in little things and change little things, and eventually you end up with a really cool painting. You don't want to overcomplicate this kind of thing, right? There's no need to. You need to overcomplicate it. You make good stuff with just simple tools. So, I'm just going to shift the stuff around here. Maybe that eye is a little bit too much to the right, huh? Over here. It's going to be the thing to the right. There you go. That's going to be the eye right over there. There we go. I'm just going to put it here. I'm just going to put it there. And we'll see if I like it or not later on. Okay, I'll make a hard call later on. Because maybe this guy's going to look like a hammerhead shark and his eyes are too wide. We'll make a call in a second. Once I put those eyes in, we can make a call. Okay, already I think it's a tad, just a little bit too wide, I feel like. A little bit. If not the left, then the right, right? Right over there. Like, I'm not a big stickler for proportioning. Especially on these kind of quicker paintings. But I like to get things relatively right. I can move this here. I think that fixes the problem, right? Really easy. Happy Sunday and Eid Mubarak, there you go. I'm a guy who gets bored easily and gets inspired by a wide range of artists. But I don't want to stick to just one style of art because I get bored. Any suggestions? So this is about the question of you have a kind of a wide range of artists that you kind of like, but you don't want to get into just anything one in particular. How would I solve that? Because I don't have the problem, so I need to think in the feet of somebody else, right? In the shoes of somebody else. I think just double diving into just your fundamental will get you what you need as an artist, right? When on the question of style, right? Style is something that comes, I feel like, a lot later than people actually generally think when it comes to your overall understanding of art as an artist, right? I mean, style is important, and I think, you know, you should cultivate it whenever you can and all these things. But at the end of the day, right? If you are kind of new to things, style is a cherry on top, right? Style is like the paint on the vehicle that you drive. But you need to first build that vehicle. You gotta put the engine, the drive shaft, the wheels, all of that transmission. You gotta put all that stuff in first, right? So I wouldn't worry too much. Like, I'm not quite sure of just how skilled you are right now. You might be way better than I am, right? It's very possible. But for most of the time, I think just thinking more about that fundamental is going to benefit you more as an artist, right? So this is just purely talking about what's gonna make you a better artist, right? But in terms of your own enthusiasm with things, I think it's an entirely different question. I'm not quite sure I'm equipped to answer that question, if I'm going to be completely honest. Because my enthusiasm for art always comes with the idea of getting better, right? So if something's going to make me better, I'm always kind of enthused by it, right? So I might enjoy different aspects of stuff and a variety of epochs, right? But ultimately, the things that I really remember and actively try to do are the things that I personally want to do myself, right? Here's a quick kind of simple way of figuring this out about what you actually want to do. There's a certain amount of art that you will find in life, a certain amount of art that you will like, right? You like it, you enjoy looking at it, it's cool to you, okay? But there's also going to be a certain type of art, certain amount of art that you'll encounter in life that you are envious of, that actively makes you angry almost that you're not doing that kind of work, right? It really blights a fire under your ass and it says, okay, I really want to be able to do that kind of work. That's the kind of work that I think you should always be working towards doing, because that kind of shows what you really care about. Because I can enjoy a good anime style piece, like a Japanese kind of painted piece.
Oh, fuck.
I think that stuff's all
I can't
fine,
believe
right?
you've done this.
But what I really want to be able to do for illustration, for example, is to do those Sargent style portraits, those Duran style portraits. That stuff really makes me think, oh my goodness, how did he do this? I'm so angry, I'm so motivated right now, I really want to do that kind of portrait. That's a good way of kind of separating everything out, right? It's a good way of separating stuff out. Like, what do you really like, and what are you really passionate about? You can try that. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, man. I don't know if that's going to help you, but a quick little talk about the importance of maybe style as a beginner, which is don't worry too much about it. Don't worry too much about style. It'll come later on. Come either naturally, or you can kind of force it to come. But what's going to make you a better artist as a beginner is just focusing on what really matters. That is just the fundamentals. What's always going to get you that goose. The fun little eye over there on the side. It's like a double lace specular on the right hand side. That's kind of cool. Let's see if we can paint that. Simplify it into one kind of blurry mask right there. And within that blurry mask we get a bit of a highlight. It's kind of fun. I like it when it's like non-traditionally highlighted. What program do you use? It's Krita. Krita. It's a free program. Anybody can use it. Open to the public. Sorry for a side question. Do you have any tips on blending? When I blend, it always messy. It's always messy with a lot of steps and lines using hard round brush with opacity in Photoshop. I can't understand how professional artists do them so easily. So we can talk about this. Maybe I'll go into this a little bit deeper once I'm done with this painting. But ultimately, it's mostly about kind of understanding edge more than it is about understanding blending. That's correct. Yes, it is Krita. But it's way more about your understanding of edge than it really is about the specific brush that you use. I will give you that hard round can be a little bit of a pain to get perfect blends with. It's still possible, but it's going to take you a little bit of time. If you want to get really beautifully blended work, you can try to resort to using things like airbrush, for example. I know it's a taboo among a lot of artists, but if you know what you're doing, I think airbrush is a phenomenally good tool. It'll totally work for what you want to do. If you want to get really, really beautifully smooth blends. But here's a question I want to give to you, right? Is that the kind of work you want to be doing? Do you really want to get really like strong blends in your work? Because if you do, then airbrush is going to be something that you want to look into, right? Because that's one of the ways you get really, really smooth blends. I know you can just look into blender brushes, for example. Okay. But here's my question to you: is that the kind of work you want to be doing? Because let's be sure about that first. Because maybe your idea of blending is not really blending. Maybe it's a much more internal issue than that. Maybe it's just edges that you're having trouble with. So here's what you're going to do for me to get a really good answer to your question. Find me some work that you want your work to look like. And what I'll do for you right after this is I'll break it down for you and I'll say what you need to work on, okay? Does that sound fair? But find me some work, okay? Let's look at some work and we'll say definitively, we'll say, okay, this is what you need to do. Cheers, Durgesh. You talk so fast. I'm sorry. It's because I'm working. I have to do a lot of things at the same time. But you're totally right. I should slow down. You're so right. I don't like that brush. Let's do with this brush over here. Nice. Can you turn brushes on? Can you turn brushes in default version of Krita? I can't do that in my old version of Photoshop. I feel it's a bit limiting or makes it more tedious for me. So the question about brush turning is actually an interesting question to bring out because I don't think it's really necessary. But if it's really something that you want to do, I think about that. I mean, you can always just switch, right? You can always just switch to a different program that really bothers you. But I think I want to tell you that it doesn't matter as much as you might think it does, right? Brush turning is maybe it's a convenience, but I know a lot of professionals personally, and it's like a hit or a miss. So you can actually do a lot of good work without having to resort to that. It's totally possible to still do that. Rap God. You seen this dog in a dog group? Have you really? That's kind of cool. Rap God. I would love to have one of those remixes, like those meme remixes of somebody putting me talking about like value or something, and then put the beat to Rap God behind. It's more of a convenience thing for me, to be honest. Yeah, that just might be a program limitation then. I'm not gonna say it's good enough reason to switch programs, but yeah, that seems like a technical aspect thing that I don't think I can help you too much with. But here's something you can do, because I do want you to get an answer to your question. Post in the Discord, in the general chat. There are some real tech whizzes out there on my Discord that should be able to help you out, okay?
Oh,
so try and do that.
I can't believe you've done
that.
this.
That might give you a much better answer. Whenever I have to be very clear when I don't know what I'm talking about, because I talk about a lot of things. So I always try to be very clear when I really don't know what I'm talking about. So that's why I say, okay, if I don't have the answer to you or for you, somebody might have it on my Discord, okay? Somebody asked about the point of this, I think. Who was that? Okay, Shok asks, what is the main focus of this exercise? Sorry, what is the main focus of this exercise? I mean, do you focus on the color of 2D shapes, or do you think in volume? So this exercise is just a quick little translational painting, just to get myself warmed up. But this one in particular is just to kind of get me back into the groove. It's just more of a process reinforcement exercise. So I have a particular process I like to go through when I'm drawing pieces. So for this particular exercise, I'm just trying to do this painting in a certain amount of time. And then later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reevaluate what I've just done and think about how I wasted my time, where did I do certain things, Where did I make certain mistakes? What can I do to improve in terms of just overall efficiency? That's what I'm doing this for, okay? So when it comes to like painting for time, for example, right? Painting things for time, it can be a very dangerous little thing, wherein, I can put this stroke here, wherein sometimes you paint kind of hurriedly, but you don't paint with a sense of like good purpose, and you don't really paint with a sense of like, sometimes you just like try to beat the clock basically, but you don't learn too much from it. So what I do for most of my learning is I'll take my time when I'm learning a fundamental, right? I'll take my time, but when I eventually just want to speed up my process, or I want to test how fast my grasp of fundamentals are, in that particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint for time, right? I'm going to do a speed painting, a quick painting, and then that's going to tell me exactly where I'm lacking, right? It'll tell me, okay, right? So you know value, you know color, but this is where you're kind of going astray, because even though you know these concepts, you're not applying them in a good order, or your process doesn't really reflect the fact that you know this kind of stuff. So when I do this kind of painting, I'm just kind of reinforcing fundamental and then kind of checking myself to see, do I really have like a good way of putting these fundamentals onto my canvas? Do I really have a good order behind doing that? And that tells me a lot of stuff about where I am. Because this painting is decent, I guess, but I've done a lot better in the past, right? But I'm just getting back into this kind of painting, so doing more and more of this kind of work is going to help me a lot to see what I'm lacking, what I'm missing, and where I should kind of put more time into it. I hope that answers your question. So it's just more of a process verification exercise, if anything else. Like I already have plenty of notes for myself here, but what I want to change the next time I do this. So for me, this painting is already a success. Ryko art and WLOP. I like your art too. Do you consider your art to have a lot of blending? Not really. I think most of my art's pretty harsh brush strokes. Whenever I can have the option to, I usually have very, very harsh brush strokes in my paintings. See you here? So you want to do that kind of work, okay. First off, I have a video sort of analyzing WLOP, LOP, on my YouTube, so if you have time later on, and you like the way I explain things, you're welcome to look at my breakdown. It's actually a pretty popular video on my YouTube, but you can look at that when you have some time. But I'll break it down for you. I'll look at some Ryko pieces, I'll look at some pieces by LOP, and I'll tell you about it right after I finish this. I hope that's okay. That, all little stuff. So no harm in just going ahead and hitting a bit of blur. I think one of my mods made that command because there's no way I wrote smash that follow button or smash that sub button. One of my mods kind of trolling me, I think. Right. Yeah, shifting things a little bit here and there. Almost done. Oh. This is one of the fun little brushes in Krita that I like using towards the end of my paintings. I can just swish things around and make it look kind of cool. That's really fun. One of the newer brushes. We are 58 minutes into the painting.
Oh,
Last thing I'm gonna do,
I can't believe you've done this.
I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of a relight, because I love relighting things. It's so fun. A little bit of relight incoming here. So let's go ahead and filter, adjustment curve, which is done. Just a little bit. Now we hit it with a bit of a relight. It's a fun little finishing thing you can do for your artwork. Just pushing my contrast a little bit higher than it already is. And I can unify it in the background. And maybe fix some edges. Serious Spectre. Thanks for the follow, by the way, Rebel. Nice of you. Plenty of little things that I think I should have maybe simplified. That's my big takeaway over here. Should have simplified a bit more towards the start of the painting. Bit of a regret over that. But beyond that, I think we did okay. Not too bad. I'd give myself maybe a 6 out of 10 here. I do like the colors. Okay, maybe a 5. 5 I think is more accurate. Don't be too easy on ourselves here. I do want more separation here. This over here is going to go darker. Just to give a good idea of where the mouth is. Better. Timer reads 1 hour. Alright, and that is done. That's our 1 hour quick painting. Not too bad. Props a little bit messy. Should have simplified a bit more. Like the fur for a lot of the ideas. Let me just look at the abstract read. Not too bad. Let me show you the piece in isolation. That's my 1 hour quick little painting. It's okay. It's not the greatest, but not too bad. Kind of fun. Okay, take a drink of water, and then we can move on to the next thing. My goal always is to just get a good basis for a painting with this kind of 1 hour quick little paintings. If you guys were not here yesterday, this is the one I did yesterday. Again, quick little 1 hour painting. Very fun. And this is the one I did the day before. These are like my warm-up paintings. It's fun to just put something on canvas really quickly. And how's it going, man?
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Okay, guys. So I need to do a breakdown for somebody. Who was it? Who was it? Who are you? Identify yourself. You've been talking a bit about how you get the likeness closer to the graph. Been struggling with that for a while. Measurement. Measurement is a key. Use all of the measurement techniques that I talked about in the past. So plumb lining, shape association, general impression, negative shapes, whatever you need to. But if you want your likeness to look closer to the reference, you have to think about it mathematically. Don't think about it like a painting. Mathematically. That's the way you need to do that. So it's a very non-artistic idea of like measuring stuff, but that's what's going to get you to the next level of likeness. You just have to measure. If you do that enough times, then eventually your eye will adapt and you'll figure out exactly where you're going wrong usually. Right? And that's going to help you out immensely. Okay, Melon said, Raiko or Vlop? Alright, let's talk about that. Blending techniques, huh? Okay. Can do. Hope you guys enjoyed that quick little painting.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Thanks, Amod. I appreciate that, man. Okay, so how do I get my blending to look like Vlop blending? How do I get my blending to look like Raiko blending? Okay, interesting question. Let's pull up some pieces first, and then we can talk about it. Because I think it's a fair question, right? Fair question. How do I make... Because everybody wants to draw like Vlop. Everybody wants to draw like Raiko. So there are some great process videos of similar artists that I think are currently on my Discord. Check the tutorial section. That should be able to get you started. But let me just pull up some pieces and I'll be able to show you more. So let's look at WLOP for a second. Vlop, really incredible artist, Chinese artist, very good guy. Let's look at some of his good... Let's just pick a portrait, okay? We'll do a portrait analysis of Vlop. What's a nice portrait to look at? It's a lovely general portrait. Okay, we'll pick a couple. We don't need to be restricted. So this will be fun.
I can't believe you've done this.
Do you know anywhere that has a long roadmap for basic fundamentals? I got done with drawbox.com, and I don't know what I should be focusing on now. Drawbox is literally all I've ever done. I'm super new to art. Alright, what would you like to do? What is the next thing for you? Would you like to draw buildings or animals or portraits? What interests you at this point? Because there are a lot of options open to you. but I don't want to give you an optimized roadmap and say, okay, you understand perspective, so let's now understand how to paint forms. Because that's probably the logical place to go, is to do form paintings. And let me show you some examples before I get into this. So these kind of paintings that I'm about to show you are basically what I would probably expect to do right after I finish my draw a box kind of training. Would be just simple ideas of how to paint with value and form, and translate that to just regular paintings. So here are some examples of what I consider to be good form paintings. These are done for me, done by me. So let me grab some. This over here is a form painting, right, of a crab. This over here is a form painting of a parrot. So once you got your perspective in order, it might be a logical thing to start to figure out how light interacts with all of these surfaces, consider the various aspects of stuff. If you want to transition into painting, this might be a good thing for you to try and do. Otherwise, you can go the other route and think about how to get your line work in order, how to get good lines in, how to kind of capture reality. I think that's also fair. If you don't have a background, maybe doing that before this makes much more sense as well. Even though, since these are very preliminary shapes, these are very basic shapes, you don't need to have your drawing incredibly well to kind of do this kind of thing. So it basically depends on what you want to go into more, drawing or painting. Because I know if you've done your 200 boxes, your 400 boxes in perspective in 2.3 point, you might be a little bit bored of just drawing stuff, you want to paint stuff. You can try doing things like this, and then once you're happy with that, you can kind of easily transition to doing things like this. This is the parrot painting for the corresponding form painting. This is the crab painting for the corresponding form painting. Do this kind of thing, and you can do it very easily. Okay, it's totally possible, right? But you should tell me from your point of view, where do you want to go, right? Because I think I've gone through most of the all of the requirements for being a mediocre artist. I think I've checked all the boxes, so I'm officially mediocre in what I do. So I should be able to tell you how to at least come to my stage. So if you like my work, I can tell you how to get to my stage, regardless of what you ask me. So give me some context. So, some examples of stuff over there. So that's a block piece right there. I'm gonna pull up some more work. Just give me a second. But a little bit additional context would be appreciated there for that question. Here's a diva thing. No Aaron Blaze? Of course I do, yeah. That is my end goal. Half cartoony, half realism. I really retrained Drawbox. I really retained from Drawbox was how to construct. Okay. So you want to know how to kind of paint like Aaron Blaze paints, basically, right? So the drawing aspect of it, I think definitely you want to be doing a lot of kind of studies of skulls. So just like you have pages upon pages of boxes and things, I think a great idea is to start drawing and sketching from nature. So start design sketching. It's going to be part of your day. Right? The focuses of design sketching are going to be, you want to be able to capture mass and form, right? And secondly, you want to be able to capture texture and inferred detail, right? And the third one is lighting. What you're going to do for this, again, you asked me a question, so I'll give you my answer to it. I'm not going to go in my opinion, because it's implied here. What you're going to do for this is you're going to start on a weekly basis, progressively difficult things. First one, draw simple things from nature, like rocks, and trees, and plants. Okay? Next up, week 2, you're going to draw things like animals, simple animals. Skulls, right? Basic skulls, maybe lizards, right? Maybe fish, and you can rotate them. Personally, I would up everything a bit more after animals. I would do this maybe for 2 weeks, and then do more and more sketching, just to kind of get you good with sketching, right? Get comfortable with sketching stuff out, because it's difficult to paint something accurately without being able to draw something accurately. Right? So let's build up some of your visual library. Let's build up some of your sketch comfort. And this will be, let's just say this will take out maybe 2 to 3 hours in your day. Okay? Next up, I want you to look at the fundamentals of painting, because I want to paint like Aaron Blaze. So what are the fundamentals of getting a painting out there? And I'll break it down for you. Fundamentals of painting, because Aaron Blaze does realism, semi-realism, realism, same thing. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned. So, painting, what are the aspects of painting that I want you to study? Very simple. First one, of course, proportion, which is all of this. All of this is for this one thing because it's the most important. Proportion. Next thing you're going to study, value.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
The next thing you're going to study, shape. The next thing you're going to study is edge. The last thing you're going to study is color. Each one of these things is going to take you a while to figure out, because every one of them has specific things that you need to be able to master, like value hierarchy, separation of light and dark, shape building, being able to simplify things into shapes, edge hierarchy, understanding where to put your lost edges, and color harmony, color theory. Every one of these things has a lot of things to kind of divide and break down. So I'll give you a bunch of places to start if you'd like. For your sketching, look up Design Cinema. Has a great video called Sketching 101. It'll tell you everything you need to know. It's a long video, but watch it. For this whole idea, for these fundamentals, look up your boy Marco Bucci. Incredible start. And from Marco Bucci, transition into more specific stuff by oil painters. So you can look up stuff from Nathan Fox, who's technically a gouache painter. Jonathan Hardesty. Look up stuff like Draw Mix Paint on YouTube. Cynics Designs. Modern Day James. Psychra. And a whole bunch of others. But these are resources for these topics. And this is a resource for this topic. That's everything you need to know. That's how you can get to Aaron Blaze's level of painting. And also Aaron himself has courses that you should probably buy. I think they're on sale. I actually have them downloaded, even though I don't, like I'm not really looking at fundamentals right now for that kind of painting. I still have all those files. Okay, that's everything. If you need any specific questions on any one of these things when you're doing them, feel free to contact me, right? We talk about this stuff every single day on the channel. So you're more than welcome to find out. Sound good? Alright, cool. Ari, how's it going? Good to see you. What you guys up to? Welcome, welcome, welcome. That should be pretty good, right? I think that covers everything. Welcome, guys. What are you working on, Ari? We were doing this just now. I did a quick little dog painting. I painted these doggos yesterday and this lovely woman the day before yesterday. Quick little 1 hour paintings. That makes sense. Long-term goals acquired. No problem whatsoever. So get on that path, right? If you've done Drawbox, I almost assume, guaranteed you have a decent work ethic already. So you're used to just sitting down and doing work, all right? So right now, I want you to channel that energy into the sketching and into all of those other fundamentals, right? And then right after you finish doing that, or while you're doing that, whenever you want, just say, hey, I'm studying value. This guy said something. What do you make of that?
Oh, fuck.
And then I can tell you, okay, this is what that means. All right, so it's a constant process, but let me know whenever I can help. I will try to help. What were you working on, Ari? You want to put some social media and things in the chat? Go ahead, all for you. Thanks, Koidesu. Okay, so somebody asked a question. I think it was Melon, I believe. If it was not, then correct me. How do I get rendering like this? How do I get smooth blends like this? So they, I believe, said...
fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Hard round brush is what you were using, right? So this is how you get blends with hard round brush. It's really simple. I'll give you the most basic rule-based approach to getting blending with hard round. It's quite simple, right? I draw a plane. I grab a round brush, right? So it's just as simple as this. I set, maybe this is the value I want to blend. Is this light? Some sketch studies today. You want to post up? Feel free to post up. So this is a very common way. I sample this value.
Oh, fuck.
I grab an airbrush.
I can't believe you've done this.
Okay, I grab an airbrush at 50% opacity. So this is a 50% opacity airbrush. I sample this value and I go bam. So you already know this, but I'm going to explain to people in the chat. So I go bam, I go half step, half step, half step, half step, right? And then again, same thing over here. I sample this new half step value and I go one more. Second half step, second half step, second half step, second half step. And again, especially near this top. Third half step, third, 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 and then fourth, 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 fourth. That's a smooth blend. Okay? Now the problem here can be a bit steppy, huh? A bit steppy. Even after I did 4 layers of half stepping, still a bit steppy. This is what people do, generally speaking, when they're doing this kind of work. They do the one sin, the sin that everybody doesn't want you to do, which is they use airbrush and they use Gaussian blur. And they use it a lot to get their softening, right? Because you see what I just did there? Let's rewind the clock. Let's take it back. Let's take it back over here. I grab an airbrush. And I go boom, bam. Big energy. Where's my stepping now? Not there, it's gone. Vanished into the ether. Right? Another idea. Another idea here. What if I just do the same thing? What if I do the same thing with any brush that I want to? So, just random blending. Random blending. Don't mind me. All good. Right? Oh, it's too steppy. Ah, shit. It's too steppy. Gonna hit it with that cheat. The cheat code. The Gaussian blur. Gauss blur. Where are your steps now? Where are your steps now? They're gone. They're gone. Alternatively, there are these section of brushes, they call them smear brushes, blur brushes, right? And I can get a smooth blend, but I can have a little bit of teeth to them. A little bit of teeth here. A little teeth to this blend. There are a variety of these brushes, a lot of characteristics. I get a smooth blend, but it's got flavor now. Maybe not so dry and dead as an airbrush. Smear brush, right? When to use one and when to use the other? Good question, right? Smear brush, airbrush, and Gaussian blurring, and a whole bunch of other things like soft brush blending. All these things are accomplishing basically the same idea. It's just a situational idea of exactly where to use one or the other. Depends on the kind of look you're going for. But for the majority of pieces that are done in this kind of style, most people are going to use selection tool airbrush for a lot of their things. I invite you to actually look at the videos from Lop on his YouTube channel. It has this whole process in there, so you're welcome to investigate exactly what he does for his individual pieces, right? So check out Lop on YouTube. Full process videos, not full but sped out process videos are on there to see how he lays things in. But you see that he paints everything with a soft brush, very soft brush, right? The trick here with these kind of paintings is that he still maintains a good amount of shape in there, and a good amount of shape in there, right? Like you see these kind of blends over there, that's an airbrush blend right there. That's an airbrush blend right there. That's an airbrush blend right there. The reason it looks good,
I can't believe you've done this.
the reason it looks good is because he has an incredible mix of beautiful soft and then lovely hard, right? It's a really cool mix of hard brush and soft brush, right? Hard edge and soft edge. And let me tell you some steps to kind of achieve this idea on your own work, okay? On your own work. They use airbrush and Gaussian blur. All the time I've been going back and forth for hours just to get a smooth blend and a hard round brush in Photoshop. No. They're going to use, even if they don't use airbrush, they're going to be using a soft brush, right? At least. So let me show you. This is what is this? That's not a soft brush. This is maybe a smooth brush, right? So I can get a much quicker. I'll show you a comparison, right? Comparison. For this edge, you saw how quickly I can get a soft blend. I'm just stroking out in the canvas. I'm just stroking out. This is a softer brush. I do the exact same thing with a hard brush. Oh no, oh no, it's an escalator, right? Brushes have different characteristics to them, right? Now the hard round brush has a lot of advantage because you get to have much more control over how you step things. So it's going to be really important to learn how to use that kind of thing. But when it comes to getting smooth ideas about your painting, you might want to consider using a softer brush. Now there are ways around this, right? For instance, if I'm going to draw, let's draw an arm really quickly, right? Let's draw an arm. Quick little arm here. So deltoid, bicep, brachioradialis, forearm, goes into the arm, goes into the wrist, okay, goes into the pec, goes into the lat. Okay, so your basic scuffed ass arm. I want to light this arm right now. What are the ways of doing it? Here's how I would do it. This is a very simple way of thinking. Selection tool, yay. I'm gonna grab the areas that are light. But let's just do one thing first before we do anything. Let's just grab this entire area. We'll make it different in the background, right? Very simple. We'll make that area different in the background by just skewing it. Lighter or darker, so make it darker. Okay? First step, easy enough. Second step, for contrast, add in the lights, right? Light, 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 and light. And we go ahead and push that into the lights, right? Very simple. Now this is selection tool, man, this is the hardest you can get. Right, same thing for some of my core shadows. Core shadow, occlusion in the armpit, ambient occlusion in the brachioradialis, core shadow over here, core shadow over there. Put in the core shadows. Push some of them. Boom, boom, boom. But things are getting a bit 3D, right? Things are getting a little bit 3D. Not very, but a little bit. Then what do? Then I say, oh, wait a second. These edges over here, a bit too sharp. So now I can say, all right, I like evaluating things with a hard brush, but now I'm going to use a softer brush, go in here, and I'm just going to address those edges. I'm going to say, okay, let's address those edges, we'll make it a bit softer. So for example, here's an example of a brush that is soft. See, so it's squiggly, scraggly canvas airbrush. And I can say, okay, I'm going to address those edges. Let's address those edges really quickly. So I can kind of artificially blend this. I don't know what's up with this value. It's going all weird on me. Did you behave? Okay, we can just use this instead. So I can address those edges right now and say, okay, now you're a little bit softer, a little bit softer. And I can kind of manipulate stuff to say, okay, now you're going to be this amount of soft, or you're going to be that amount of soft. I get to change things, right? So that's a kind of cool look. But if it's not the look I'm going for, it's okay, all right? I can just use my airbrush or any soft brush. And I can say, okay, smooth blend time, smooth blends, smooth blend there, smooth blend here. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. Now I must point out something. I have to point out something, is that if the contrast is too high, no amount of blending is going to save your piece, okay? So make sure that the values themselves make sense, right? They make sense, they can potentially be blended, because you can't blend a white with a black, it's not going to work, right? It's always going to look hard. So be a little bit careful about your values, so you can actually solve this idea in values as well as edge. But this should be enough to get you started, okay? So you can still think in terms of hard. But when it comes down to painting stuff, you can just change the edges as you need to change it. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm just waiting for your answer. Also, thanks for those follows, by the way, guys. Hey James, do you know any charcoal specialized artists? Yeah, of course. Nathan Fox and Cesar Santos. Look them up. Those juicy occlusions. Always look awesome. Nice juicy occlusions. Big fan of those. You want me to write those names down for you? Can do. These ones. Nathan Fox. And Cesar Santos. What's that one YouTube channel? Something Academy, something University? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Where they do ridiculous charcoal paintings? Somebody must know in the chat. Oh man, I keep forgetting, it's on the tip of my tongue. Something Academy. It's like a Russian thing. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anyway, so I digress, but these are good ones. Alright, that's it for the explanation part of stuff. Toss that. Now it's time for a repaint. Here's my Arcanine painting from a while ago. We're gonna repaint it. It's gonna be fun. So here's a painting of Arcanine I did a while ago. This was, I think, last December. And here's a painting of Charizard that I did last week. So we have a little bit more knowledge. I know them, but I also forgot the Academy name. Thanks, Spectre. Appreciate that, buddy. So we've gotten a little bit better in the last few months, okay? So I would really like to maybe change this. Academy of Art Uni? I'm not sure, Tech. It might be. It might be. I would have to see a video to know. I think a part of my problem could be that I wasn't open to being more versatile. I always only use the hard round brush, and nothing wrong with that. But maybe to achieve certain effects, I might have to open to using a different brush and techniques. Okay. So, To your point, there's a very common phrase in the industry which basically goes, I think it might be Fine Art Academy, I think Bonus got the right of it, but people will say it's not the tool, it's the artist, right? Any artist is going to be able to make incredible work no matter the tool, and that's correct. But here's something that comes from Peter Han. On his stream a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked him a very similar question, and he said, while you can still make good work regardless of the medium itself will have some sort of say in what that exact work looks like. Because a work done in pure charcoal is not going to be exactly the same as a work done in pure ink. It's not going to be work done in pure gouache or work done in pure oils. Because medium has a different characteristic, right? If I paint an entire piece using a giant, large, flat brush, a flathead brush, it's going to look different than if I painted everything with a tiny, small, fine-tipped camel brush. It's going to be different. The paintings might still have a similar, comparable degree of quality, but the tool usage is going to have some influence over what the painting looks like. And if it doesn't, that means the artist has fought incredibly hard to make sure that it doesn't look different, but to the point of abject inconvenience. Okay? So to your point, to compare to your argument here, or your stance here, you could make something with a round brush look exactly like airbrush, but you would be sitting for maybe twice the amount of time to get the blends to be as smooth as you need them to be. Okay, so rather than that, switch up your tool usage a little bit and you can save yourself a lot of time. Okay, I think that's the ground we're trying to go for over here. How are you doing today? No homework? Yeah, I'm in term break, Sarpers. I'm in term break, so I get to do whatever I want. But welcome. Let's take a drink of water and we'll do some of this painting here. Okay. Shall we just paint on top of my existing? That'll be fun, right? Let's do that.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Thanks, Demon. I may or may not be mildly surprised if CD has breaks. It's a 2-week break between terms. It's very common, yeah. The way things usually are. Because I think it just allows people to not just literally die when they're working. Thank you, Demon. I appreciate that. Let's paint over this, huh? Let's paint over. It's going to be fun. Let me just grab the reference really quickly and we can start. I'm just going to grab it and put it in here. I hope you guys enjoyed that crit stream yesterday, by the way. I had a good amount of fun. Great response from everybody. Everybody seemed to have a great time there. Okay, here's my piece from last December. We'll put a new layer over here and we'll beef it up a little bit. And then let's start doing some new stuff, okay? Some new stuff. Let's make the size a little bit larger. Let's concept artify this whole drawing. How about that? Sounds good? Alright. I'll give myself maybe an R-ish on this. I'm gonna crop my thing to where I need it to be. Nice. So you're kind of giving the Pokemon a realistic look with colors and values. I was hoping to get some insights on actually simplifying things. I always find myself painting with too much detail when it comes to emotes or two color characters like anime or Pokemon. You find yourself simplifying? Okay, so you're finding yourself too much detail. So what you need to do is restriction painting. So give yourself a limited tool set and see if you can achieve a similar result, right? So there's a lot of talk when it comes to things like stroke efficiency, where you do something called stroke economy painting, where you count the number of strokes and reduce it every time you paint. What I suggest to you is just to do limited value work. So limit your values maybe. Limited to maybe, if you really want to get good at this, limit it to 3 or maybe even 2 values, right? And don't even think about color to begin with, just think about value, okay? And do a few of those paintings, see what you can do. Because over here, your ideas of shape will really pay huge dividends, and also your ability to draw stuff in good proportion matters so much more. So do limited paintings if you want to get better at that, right? So start, if you really are afraid of starting really complicated or simple, too simple, start with just 5. You should be able to manage a limited painting with 5 values fairly easily with your skill level, right? And then reduce to 4, 3, 2, 1. that'll make sure that you think a lot stronger about the things you actually need. So you might find yourself halfway in the painting saying, oh, wait a second, I actually don't need this value, I should have gotten this other value, right? And you'll make a lot better decisions when it comes to simplifying stuff. So give yourself less to work with, right? And then you'll work with less. Panda, how's it going, man? You doing okay? Okay, guys, so for this painting, I'm gonna do a few things here that we're gonna change it up. We're gonna change the lighting direction. I'm gonna top light this, and we're gonna try and make everything look a little bit more solid. So right now it looks a little bit flat. I'm gonna change some of the portions of the face, make those shadows a bit better, right? Colors maybe a bit too unified. I want to bring out some of the local color, and I think that should be a good place to start. Okay, sound good to everybody? I'm gonna grab my reference. Got some little references here to help me around. Look at this guy. How fucking terrifying is that? Jesus Christ. Alrighty. And I'm gonna get my Charizard out of here to keep me company. Massive headache? Makes it hard to study? I'm sorry, my friend. And I got my Arcanine reference to the right to help me out on specifics. That looks so cool. That's a really well done little drawing there. But you see how important the shapes are here. Really well chosen. Very nice. Okay, let's begin. First thing I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna cut that saturation, man. I'm gonna desaturate slightly. Oh, not that much, Jesus Christ. Not that much. let's cut the sat. Get a bit more desaturated. Especially in the main character. Drawing Pokeballs. I'm just having a bit of fun here this weekend, because I'm going to be doing a lot more school-related stuff next week. So for 2 days, I'm just giving myself a bit of time to chill. I've been chilling with some Pokemons, yeah. I did this portrait earlier. I did these earlier. It was kind of fun. I'm just kind of drawing things in my comfort zone, just having a good time. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to relight this. I'll deal with the shapes maybe later on. Well, let's just bring the overall contrast and the speech way down. Right? This is just like quick modification things, by the way. Don't pay me too much mind. Just kind of priming my canvas to begin here. So I'm going to top light this. Double check on what I'm looking at. Okay. It sort of helps that I have a good background with drawing lines now, so I kind of know what to light. Lighting cheekbone, lighting cheekbone. Lighting this tuft of hair, this tuft of hair. This tuft of hair in the front. The shoulder, top of the head, tuft of hair here, a little bit of the ear, nose, cheekbone, tuft of hair here, the back. How'd you decide the top light is best light? Top light is usually what you do standard in the industry, so whenever I do light something, I tend to do it from the top. But generally you want to pick for illustration purposes, you pick whatever's best for your composition. Forgive me if it's a little bit blurry, but this is basically, I'm critiquing my own work here. So I'm going to be a little bit rough with my stuff at the beginning. There you go. That's getting my lights where they need to go. Quick little look, see how things are coming along. But top light tends to give you the most clearest result most of the time. In this kind of blurry, soupy stage, it can be a little bit tense, right? Because you don't really know if you can make good painting out of it. I always advise that this is something that is always solved through mileage. The more mileage you have, the more confident you're going to be doing things like this. Because you don't ever want to be kind of pushed down on your piece just because of the fact that you don't think it looks good at that particular time, that particular point of time. That's something that's really solved quite well by just having a bit more mileage.
I can't believe you've done this.
I was giving myself a head start with values here. I'm going to be painting in a second here. Thanks, Sticks. I appreciate that. But again, we're gonna try and push this to this kind of quality. So that's an old piece and a new piece. So let's see if we can do it, alright? So once I'm kind of happy with the way that my values are, just a quick little repaint on top with value, just a quick little value fix. I'm gonna just make a new layer entirely. I'm gonna paint on top of the fixed value version, okay? So it'll be really fun towards the end of this piece because we can compare what we just did. So I'm just giving myself a little bit of a head start here. Just gonna play around with the lights and darks to make things look a little bit more volumetric. And even though, what's funny here is that even though I've done nothing to change the shapes on my piece, everything still looks way more lit than my initial, just because there's now contrast on the lights, right? The funny thing that happens there, because I think there's just too little contrast. There's a lot of color contrast on the original, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough value contrast. Can we actually put that to the test? How about we do this? Let's Control Shift U this, or desaturate it. Some contrast, but not really that much, right? Not that much in terms of core shadow either. One of the big mistakes in that piece. So let's try and apply our new knowledge now. Okay, so I think I have everything in order with this quick little initial overpaint. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper now, alright? We'll start actually painting now. Let's go ahead and commit that change, make a new layer, and now we'll start painting. So the first thing I want to do for this painting is I want to set in two things. The first one is cast shadow, and the second thing is ambient occlusion. Cast shadow first. So let's make sure we cast everything. Cast shadow is a really, really important tool that's going to allow us to have a really good idea of where things are placed in space. Super, super important to do this. Now the exact way you want to do this is up to you. I like to be very harsh with the way I put in cast shadows. So I'm going to use the harshest technique available to me, which is simply selection tool. I'm just going to grab shapes like nobody's business, and I'm going to ensure that I do cast. Because I want these casts on this piece. And I want it without any other, without like any two questions about it. I need this cast. So I'm going to go around the piece and say, okay, that's going to cast, that's going to cast, that's going to cast. And this is going to really let my piece be a lot clearer. Now the question is, now that I know what my cast shadow is going to be shaped like, and believe me, I think I should have designed these shapes better. I really should have. But we're just working kind of quickly around the piece, so it's not okay. It's not okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. What do I put here is a good question, right? What even is going to be the value in here? So let's just think about this for a second. That's going to be dark desaturated. I'm sorry, dark saturated right there. Because again, it's in the middle of the ear, right? Middle of the ear. Warm local color. It's going to be dark saturated right over there. We can be pretty obvious, pretty sure about that. This value, do you remember the last stream we had a concept called halfway to black? We're going to use halfway to black here to solve a problem, because I don't really know what is an appropriate value to put here. I don't really know. So all I'm going to do, you guys can see my color palette here, right? On my selector. I'll take this value, I'll divide it by 2, right over there. Also, since the shadows are going to go cooler because of the ambient light, I'm going to push this downwards to make it cooler. We get a little bit of mid saturation in there. That's how I'm going to choose my shadow value. Get this value in here. Right? And you might say, oh my goodness, it looks horrible. It's so horrendous, right? But the thing is, remember, I haven't done anything about the edge here yet. There's been no talk about edges just yet. It's just a raw value. Raw value. This is exactly how I encourage people to work, because it's so difficult to constantly have that pressure of getting things right on the first go, man. It's a bit too much to ask for yourself, if you ask me. A bit too much. So what I always just doing is paint things in the rawest fashion possible, and then make changes depending on your needs and requirements. Over there, over there, right over there. Glass. Because you gotta sometimes trust yourself. Right? You gotta trust yourself and know that you know what you're doing. The mouth's gonna cast, by the way, a little bit. The flap of the mouth. Lovely little gels right there. This is cast shadow, by the way. I haven't done anything for form shadow. I'm just casting. Anyway, I just started casting. There's a cast already there. That's fine. I can keep that. Right over here. I'm just gonna borrow some shadow values from his pops. Right over there. Right over there. Some light value that needs to be put on there. That's fine. And some shadow values right now. Right there. Right there. See, the thing is, this looks horrible, man. It looks horrible right now, but that's what I want to like try and get you guys thinking about. It's just about thinking more about the principle behind something than what it looks like. Because otherwise, you kind of slow yourself down in painting. If you want to make everything look good at every stage, man, that stuff slows you down like crazy. You call it raw material? Yeah, I call it raw material, yeah. Raw material to kind of push around my canvas. There you go. So now let's deal with a little bit of form shadow here. A bit more form shadow. Move around some of these primitives here. Again, lights come at the top, so I need to change the actual painting now. And this stuff is very straightforward. All I'm doing is I'm applying the appropriate amounts of light to the areas that are going to get the light. And I kind of already know what's going to get the light because of the way I put the cast shadows, right? The cast shadows to me is just simply me telling myself where I need to put my lights. Because my cast shadows say, hey, there's got to be light casting this, right? It's got to be light casting it, so that's got to be in light, right? This is just rearranging my lights. Very simple. This is going to get subsurface, that's going to get subsurface, very fun. Again, it's like me just knowing intuitively, not intuitively, but knowing just through just simple calculation stuff, right? That I know what needs to go there, so I make that decision myself. It's a cool little highlight thing that I kind of like. I want to bring that maybe a bit closer to the middle now. I like that highlight streak. It's warm like cool shadow. If you want to simplify it like that on this painting. Beautiful warm highlight to the top. One thing about highlights you gotta know is that highlights are going to be consistent across the piece. So if I have one highlight in there like that, then that highlight is going to go consistently across. Right there maybe. And probably something right over there on the snoot. And the little hair right there. It's a fun little thing you can add, you know, that little flare you can add there. Fun. Front facing. Going to be in shadow. So this value is going to be shared among both. Oh, be careful with my strokes there. Okay, form shadow over here. Can I borrow that value really quickly? Value goes on the bottom now. This value goes on the top. Why? Because I'm just painting a simple semicircle there. Volume. There's going to be an ambient occlusion. I'll put the ambience in a second. I haven't done anything for ambience just yet. We'll put it in there. No worries. Just put the teeth in there because I don't know where they are. Those teeth are a bit too far apart now. It's actually like that. Okay. I love this kind of thing, you know? It's going to go from light to shadow here and then go immediately to light over there. I really love those kind of areas in the painting. It's not there just yet, but it's coming pretty soon. It's a semicircle or semi-sphere on top of a straight, so it gives you that lovely kind of edge in between. I really like seeing that on paintings. Big fan of that thing. Okay, let's go to light again because these sides are being lit about the same. I can tilt the light ever so slightly to create slight form shadows on this side of the nose. That's not completely out of the way, right? It's not completely crazy. This can be a little bit darker. I think inevitably it's going to be a little bit darker just because of the fact that I'm painting over dark. I'll try my best to even them out though. This shouldn't be accidental. Okay. So right now we're like deep into it, right? We're deep into the soup of it. But again, we're still in control there. We still know what we're doing. And again, these cast shadows, I don't really mind them, man. They're fine. Push to the bit more pink maybe. Bit more pink, bit more dark. All good. Think about the volume as well. The volumes that we're playing around with. Gonna be volume right there, right? The volume is going to be described just by value. So if this is like a sphere, for example, we paint it like a sphere. Remember all the talks we had earlier yesterday about painting spheres? This is where all that talk gets used. So we had a big discussion on how to paint spheres, how to paint cubes, how to paint cylinders yesterday. This is where you use that information. On things like this. Make them look realistic. Make them look a bit more real. Over there, for example. Nice and easy. That can be a little cast shadow over the ear, that's totally fine. This eye over here should go a little bit brighter. This eye actually can be in full darkness, considering he's got this big old tuft on his head. But I guess it depends on how you want to paint this. I think the planes his face being pushed with that kind of contrast and lighting. It's always fun. Always fun.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Thanks, Takizomi. Okay, so again, once you kind of figure out where your shadows need to go, you can start to just make these lovely little adjustments here.